that basically, if you go to a top college, it's kind of like, what's a good analogy? Like, I think it's, if you go to a good college, like companies, it's much easier to find opportunities than at another place because, like basically opportunities are more plentiful, but that doesn't mean like if you go to any college, opportunities exist. But basically, I got much more out of these opportunities than out of the classes. So some examples of opportunities, right? There's this there's like the Global Platinum Securities, right? It's a club where we invest a total of $200,000 on various stock markets. It's like a stock picking club. And I learned more out of this club than I did out of my classes about like investing and finance, all that stuff. There's a service called Venture Mentoring Service, which is pairs you, like if you're a startup, it pairs you with like these engineers and like scientists and like business people and lawyers with like 20, 30 years of experience to help you with your startup for free. And MIT is not the only college that has this. Like St. WashU has this. Like a lot of colleges have this. And this has helped me more about my startup than any other entrepreneurship classes I take. Another example is like recruiting. So if you go to a college, if you go to like basically like there's two ways to find jobs afterwards. One is you can just like go online and search for jobs that you want and apply directly to them. Two, there's this thing called on-campus recruiting, where companies come to you and schedule interviews with you and hire you directly at your college. So all colleges have this, but one of the advantages of going to a good college is that it's much easier to find jobs. You don't have to do them as much legwork. But granted, like even if you don't go to like a top college, like they still have recruiting and you can still reach out to them. And I guess like the final opportunity is like an example is the MIT Alumni Association or just alumni associations in general, where if you just reach out to people, they will come and like easily want to help you out. As an example, so the internship that I got for my junior year at James Street Capital, basically I reached out to this alumni and said, hey, I'm interested in this, can I get an internship? He's like, yeah, we're going to give you an interview. So basically, like, if you reach out at any college, then they would be, like, you gain so much more out of these opportunities than you do your classes. The difference between, like, top colleges and not, like, the difference between top colleges is that, like, they're more plentiful, but regardless, it's really up to you to reach out. Like, you can just take the easy route, take like 4 classes a semester, coast by, and then basically you would have wasted all your opportunities. Or you could like decide what you want, and that would make you take advantage of these other things that appear to you. So, having said that, I guess like hopefully I've convinced or helped you. Basically, like Asian parents say, "Oh, good colleges are important. You should go to a good college." But I think, having gone through that, I do believe that it is extremely important to go to as good a college as you can. The idea that you should go to a state school because it's cheaper is, in my opinion, completely invalid. Because you get back your money invested like way sooner because of the increased opportunities. So a little background about my applications. This is, I guess, targeted more towards the younger students in this audience because I guess it's not really relevant. But again, like I'm gonna show you what my college application is like, so you have an idea of what to expect at the end of your high school career. Again, like I'm not smart. The only reason I really got it is because, again, my parents had a vision and I planned effectively in grades 8 to 12. What anybody can do. So a little bit more of my background. So I lived in 12 cities and 4 countries over my course of over the past 12 years. And so I started in Chongqing, moved to California, then to Mississauga in Canada, then to Toronto, then to Sweden, back to Toronto, to Ottawa, Westboro, Northboro, and over to MIT. And the reason that we moved to all these places is essentially my mom back in China had this vision. It's like, hey, I want my son to go to MIT, which is back then a ludicrous idea because like we had no money, like we had no car, like we had a car that broke down in the middle of the Nevada desert and it like overheated, and then we had to like hitchhike, wait like 2 hours of hitchhike for whatever. It was like it was like a ludicrous vision back then, and like the reason we moved to all these places is so that I could have the best opportunity to go there, and eventually I did get it. And so like all that would not have been possible if my parents did not have the daring vision that I could one day go to college. So that's another illustration of like the vision is the key ingredient. Like I'm the least person you would expect to go to MIT. Like there's millions of people in the United States who have way better opportunities than I do. So the vision is paramount. And this applies not just to college but beyond as well. Like the vision is paramount. So decide what you want. Now key moments here. So basically in grades 1 to 7 I was really mediocre. Like I was not getting straight A's by any aspect. And then in grade 8, so I got really lucky. So I did this competition called Math Counts, and I was on a 3-way tie for 4th place in the state competition. And they took the top 4 people to nationals. So I actually, by some obscure tiebreaker rule, I got to nationals. And that basically spurred my interest in math because there was like this massive training program, 5-week training program where they give you a lot of problems. And so just to give an example of how this helped me, the national contest was out of 30. The first time I took it, I got a 6 out of 30. And then the second time, so all my other teammates got like 23 and like 28 and like whatever out of 30. So I was 6 out of 30. So then I just like practiced really hard over the 5 weeks, and like I went from 6 to like 12 to like 13, and then like my last score was a 23. So, but that was really intense. All I would do is I would go back and do math. So go back and do math. And basically my dad's like, do math, go do math. So it's like extremely Asian, but I think it turns out though that led to all the other things that happened later that were good for me. So as an I'll speak to that later. So basically after that math comps thing, I became pretty good at math. As I told you before, like in grade 7, I was on the C team. In grade 8, like now I was like really much better, just over that 5 weeks. So if you can do, like if I can do that, like anybody can do that. Like it's, if you just decide what you want and work hard at it, like it's really possible. So summer of grade 8 is kind of like the turning point. So basically I read this book called How to Get into the Top Colleges. And it is the best book I've read, like the most useful book I've read in my life. Basically it tells you exactly what you need to do, what you need to do to get into top colleges. Like, and for the next 4 years of my life, I just did exactly what it told me to do, and I got into a good college. So I think that's a philosophy that, especially the younger people should take, is just like figure out what you need to do before you have to do it, because eventually you're going to have to write an application anyways, right? So why not just figure out what the application is like beforehand, so you can write a good application and actually have good stuff to back it up. So essentially the formula, the secret formula for getting into top colleges is 2 things. So one is you do need to have a good GPA and good SATs. Doesn't have to be spectacular, but it needs to be like pretty good. And you need to have something like stand out in you, something special. So basically I was really bad at everything else except math, right? So I took Chinese, I got like 70 in the 60s on my Chinese test, so I was really bad at Chinese. I took piano, I was nowhere near as good like as my next door neighbor in piano. I took French, I was horrible at French, even though I lived in Canada. Like I was really bad at sports, or really bad at cross country, I was bad at everything, except for math, which is I'm actually kind of good at. So I just dropped everything except for math and tried to like focus on stand out in math. And basically there's this contest in high school called the USA Math Olympiad, where the top 250 qualify, and if you qualify, it's according to legend an automatic admission to MIT. So I was like, okay, well, why don't I just try to qualify for this? Because if I qualify for this, then apparently I'll get into MIT. So then, summer of 9th grade, I just like studied for this test, and I qualify for that next year, and yeah, and then I guess I got into MIT later. But so after I qualified for that, I decided to like drop math because that's not important anymore because I already qualified, and focus on stuff that I was more interested in and classes at Andover, which I'll talk about as well. So basically, like the formula is like figure out what you need to do and figure out what you're good at and just do it, and then you'll succeed. It's like a pretty simple approach to these things. So here's another example of effective planning in action, right? So I went to public high school for 2 years. I went to Northborough, so Algonquin Regional High School. And then I went to Andover, Phillips Academy for 2 years. And basically at Andover, there's this book called The Scattergrams, which lists every single college, like Harvard, like Carnegie Mellon, whatever, like every like Syracuse, like every single college has a scattergram where you have the GPA on this axis and the SATs on this axis. A green means this is over the past like 10 years, right? So for example, this person got a 5.5 GPA with a 15 whatever on his SATs. A green means they got in, and a red means they didn't get in. So over the past 10 years, it's pretty clear that if you have above a 5.4 GPA, you're get in. It doesn't matter what your SAT is, if you get above a 5.5, you get in. So coming into Andover, I had the privilege of like looking at this. So like, okay, well, why don't I just not care about math anymore, because math doesn't matter. As long as I get above a 5.4, I'll get in. So I worked extremely hard only on academics, and I got above a 5.4, and basically the first semester I got a 5.0, and I was like, okay, well, if I get a 5.0, I'll be like somewhere like right here, which means, or actually I'll be somewhere right here, which means I will definitely not get in. So, but this, why don't I just, like, basically I knew what I had to do, and it's pretty clear that if I don't do it, I'm not get in. So, you just work hard, and eventually I got 5.0, 5.5, 6.6, 6.0, 6.0, and then after I got in, I was actually at 5.0, but that's okay. So I guess tips, work backwards, right? Figure out what you need to do. I don't know if every school has one of these, but it was really helpful for me. If you don't have one of these, just I don't know, like there's a big difference between like public schools and these like elite prep schools, where like public schools, the SATs are more important than your GPAs, and like in private schools, your GPA is more important than the SATs, because colleges have a better idea of what your GPA system is like. So again, like just figure out what you have to do, and just plan out each of the application items beforehand. So I'll show you like each part of the application, and then you could plan out that beforehand. So basically, as an example, there's two guys, Al and Bob. So Al plans ahead, knows what he has to do, does it, and gets in. Whereas Bob just like wanders through high school, and then has like an old crap moment where he realizes that he needs to apply, and college's application is around the corner, and then like lots of regrets, lots of like stressful situations. Basically, you want to be Al. Not just for colleges, but I think beyond college as well. So basically the application, right? So it's really quite simple. There's a total of, I'll show you all, there's 8 pages. You're trying to summarize your life in 8 pages. First page is your short response. So the 2 questions are like, tell me something if you do simply for the pleasure of it. What department MIT appeals to you and why? Second is your activities and stuff. Third section are your scores, like AP scores and awards and all that stuff. And then your essays and your grades. So that's it. And then there's like some stuff that I'm not showing. The recommendations, the interview, and the college counselors. So you're basically the only criteria with which colleges have to judge you are these things. And the thing that book taught me is that you can plan each of these things beforehand. So I just did just that, right? So I'll start at the beginning. Well, the short response you can't really plan that beforehand, but yeah, other than that, everything you can plan beforehand. So like extracurriculars, for example, right? Essentially, like it just asks you to list what your activities are, how many years you participated, hours per week, or your description of what you did, what you did over the summer, and then if you had any work experience and what you did. So this is probably similar to the application type of senior, stuff like that. So strategies that I recommend, basically there's two strategies for recommendations. For